Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the first, and potentially last, annual Video Game Awards from the gaming lovers, the 2018 Smoochie Awards.
The Gaming Lovers Podcast with Brendo and Jem.
You've heard of the Tonys, you've heard of the Emmys, it's now time for the Smoochies.
Oh, goodness. 2018, what a year in gaming.
2018, if you prefer.
Well, most jobs when I have to say the year in like an ad or something, they always want me to say 2018. Just saying.
Well, you wouldn't say 1998, would you? You'd say 1998.
It depends on the person. Everyone has their thing.
No one would say that. That was my silly point to actually back you up. But since you argued against it, I guess I'll not even bother next time.
G'day, I'm Jem.
I'm Brendo, the one who's always right. And we are the gaming lovers. We love games. We are showering them with accolades today because this end of year celebration is officially known as the Smoochies. We wanted a word to give our award a little more weight, a little more oomph, a little more severity, a little more prestige. And what else would you name something from the gaming lovers? It requires love, it needs affection. The Smoochies got the nod, it got the gong. The Smoochies got the gong.
Oh, no. Oh, yes. These are awards to be taken very, very seriously.
Oh,
clearly. This episode 37 of the Gaming Lovers Podcast, we're going to be looking at 2018, a year in review, not just of video games and some of our favourites, and giving out smoochies.
I'll be handing them out left, right and centre.
But we're also going to be just looking back at the podcast as a whole, some of our own achievements as the gaming lovers, and also saying thank you to you for listening to our podcast, and especially for those who have taken the effort to interact with us on social media. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. Before we jump into anything, though, we have to do gaming goals. We really need to decide on a tune. We need a pitch pipe or something before we jump into this.
I like the organic way that we just
that it sounds horrible?
Yeah. Well, I just sort of try and deliberately off-pitch you.
You sabotaged?
Well, it makes it feel more real. More authentic, less prepared, less rehearsed. We're all about just being natural here.
Yes. Maybe a little too natural. Anyway.
Should I put pants on?
You haven't once in all the history of this podcast. Why start now? I'm kidding. I jest. But seriously, put some pants on. Gaming goals. I have some big news.
Big news?
Big news!
I don't believe it. You've
Big
finally beaten Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 2.
Well, yeah, I beat that a while ago.
Okay, that was...
That's you slow news, though.
And the smoochie for running joke of the podcast goes to...
No, I don't know. I can think of some other running jokes from this podcast.
I love it.
I have finally finished Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
I don't believe it.
I didn't either. I don't know if I... Well, see, there's a little asterisk. Because this is the game that never ends. There's always side missions. I haven't done everything.
If it sounds
it's not a
too
completionist.
good to be true.
Shush you. It's not like a 100% I've gotten every little thing. But I have completed the main story saga, and I, met Aquaman in Atlantis, and we're good buddies now. He gave me his trident. It's all good.
I'm confused.
Yeah, that's how the game ends, and it starts into the Aquaman movie. It's really cool, actually, having a sneak peek.
I don't know if you're dropping...
Jason Momoa makes a cameo. I can't believe you hadn't heard about this.
I don't know if you're dropping...
They kept the spoilers really to a minimum. It's great.
Well, I don't know if you're dropping spoilers on us, or if you're just talking out of your rear end. I'm unsure of the...
You'll never know unless you play. Mwahaha. That's my sneaky way to get you wanting to play the game.
I want to play the game, but I've got 8,000 things to do in between now and then.
Well, how's your gaming goals going then?
Is that it? Is that just the abrupt end? No discussing the actual game?
No,
what
I thought I've discussed this game at length in numerous episodes in the build-up to this. I feel like I've commented on it enough.
No,
If people-
you've put 100 hours into your save file. You need to at least expend that much time talking about it.
Oh, no.
Otherwise,
We will lose listeners. Everyone will be like, it'll get to like hour 2 of talking about it and they'll just give up. So no. If you want to hear my thoughts, the last few episodes, I think I share a little bit. The more I discover about the game, the more I've talked about it. And my thoughts are still pretty consistent. You know, there's a lot of bloat in it, but there is still some good story and
That's
some
just-
laugh out loud moments.
the bloat is just the hedonist lifestyle that they live up on those
Yep.
Greek islands.
Yes. Oh my word, yes. But to be fair, some of the characters that are like that make for some of the funniest moments in the game too.
Absolutely.
Yes, and you always seem to walk in on those conversations and I'm like, out of context, this sounds even worse than normal. I mean, it's not great, but
Thankfully, our relationship is strong enough that we never judge based off what we've just walked in on in a video game. Because
or
I play
a TV show.
I play the weird Vita games. You play the open world RPGs with strange quests. We've both had that experience multiple times
For
where
sure.
we're just like, what are you playing?
Well, same with like anime too, because
Oh,
as
yes.
much as we love anime, there is some weird, like they've got their own unique sense of humor. And sometimes you just walk in on stuff and you're like, what is happening? So anyway,
Part of the charm.
that is me for gaming goals for 2018. Yay! I ended on high, and I'm happy that I got a big game checked off right at the end of the year.
You get to waltz into 2019 with
waltz.
a clean slate.
Yep, that's exactly how I'm going to go and start the year. I'm going to waltz. Alrighty,
Fantastic.
Brendo, how'd you go?
This may take a while. Okay,
Well, let me get some popcorn.
starting off, Yakuza 0 has been back in my hot little hands. Wham bam, charging
jam?
through. What?
You said wham bam, and I said pass the jam. Sorry. I think it's from a kid's book, and they've just always said it.
I've never heard that variation of wham bam, but
Wham bam, pass the jam. I feel it like, hang on. I feel like it's Roald Dahl. I could be wrong.
there it is. Okay.
Thanks for the Roald.
May I actually answer the question that you started before? You asked,
Fine, I'll let you talk.
how am I going? I did say this was going to take a while. I did not expect this to be the reason. Please pass the jam next time she asks for it.
Yes,
Just
wham
get it
bam.
over and done with. Okie dokie. Yakuza 0, as I said, I've been playing a lot more than I have been able to in the almost entirety of December because of all the Christmas social work chaos that basically goes on this time of year. Now, the good news is I've made a lot more progress in the main storyline, and for Yakuza 0, there is basically 2 separate storylines that you're playing in alternating chapters. One for Kazuma Kiryu, who is the young Yakuza member who has briefly left the organisation for various reasons, and now he's trying to make it and solve the mysteries on his own. And the flip side is Goro Majima, who is also having some issues remaining in his family, and is tasked with doing one specific mission to make all of his troubles go away. Both of those plot lines have hit major cliffhangers, and it's one of those things where you're just like, oh my gosh, I really cannot wait to see what happens next. Now, combine that with the incredible side missions that have just unlocked on both sides of the storyline. I've got real estate. Yes, real estate is an interesting minigame. Don't give me that look. And on Majima's side, he's running a hostess club, so you have to make sure the clientele and your staff are actually happy and motivated to work well. Surprisingly, those two are actually really a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying it all the way through. I'd hoped to beat it by the end of this year, but unfortunately, it didn't happen.
That's the way with big games like that, and just this time of year too is usually pretty chaotic. But I know you've been playing other stuff as well.
Yes, indeed I have. Big surprise, I made one last impulse buy. I just cannot seem to help myself in this last week of the year. I did not actually get any games for Christmas this year. Shock horror.
I threw a curveball.
I did not even buy any games at the Boxing Day sales. So the backlog is left in its pristine, mouldy condition, never to be touched again. But at least I didn't make the mistake of overindulging in the sales department like I did last year, and that's probably why I have such a backlog at this very moment.
I feel like I need to defend myself because I kind of like teased the idea that you were getting certain games for Christmas and you didn't get any. One, certain family members kind of alluded to the fact that they would be getting you stuff and then didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But two, there was other stuff, like we put strict budgets on ourselves after Japan on what we were allowed to spend on Christmas. And I had been hunting down this gyukatsu grill so you could recreate your favorite dish from Japan.
Oh, yes.
And I feel like that was kind of just fit in our budget. So I was very tempted to like last minute Christmas Eve go buy you a video game just so you had one under the tree. But I stopped. I'm like, no, self-control. I'm sticking to a budget. Do you know how much that hurts?
Oh, I'm sure it would have. But do you know how much it would have meant to me to have that $2 second-hand Nintendo DS copy of Barbie's horse racing experience?
Oh, I'll remember that for next time.
I was trying to think of something that would be in the bargainest of bargain bins. Okay, well, I did still make one purchase on an impulse as we record this podcast. I have just emerged from a 3.5-hour session that vanished in the blink of an eye with my good buddy the Falcon online, playing a genre that I didn't think I would go near. Now, there's many survival games,
Yes.
survival crafting experience games where you are basically on an island or on a wasteland of some sort. You have to secure materials like wood, logs, stones, bones. I just said it because it rhymed, but you can actually collect bones,
Ew.
so it works out well. Games like Rust and DayZ and Ark, games with very short names it seems, that you collect things, you try and survive as long as you can, you have various meters to maintain, but the reason I've always avoided them is for one particular thing they're missing, and that is story. I love a good story. I like to invest in a story. I like to work towards a final mission, game end, credits, everyone's happy, except for the characters who died, etc., etc.
Yep.
Now, The Forest did show up on my radar earlier this year. It did release on PC, an early access survival game with a story in it. Who would have thought? You crash land on an island, your plane goes down through turbulence. I'm going to be a little scared next time I hop on a commercial flight. You crash land and a naked man steals your child, which, of course, you don't want it happening. Let's just put that right out there. But the fact that you then have to try and find, not only survive on this island where all sorts of things could happen to you, you have to find your child. It's like another Liam Neeson Taken movie, but with crazy naked cannibals. So that's always a good thing. We decided it was probably the least planned game that we've ever made a purchase on, because it was like, oh, I saw this trailer and we can play co-op and it looks pretty good. You want to go? So I went, yep, I'll just look at that. Yep, cool, done. Let's buy it. We've got time now. Let's play it. And we wasted probably 90 minutes of that because we walked in blind. We didn't know how to do anything. We couldn't even get a fire started at first. Our first shelter on the beach. We had a lovely little beachside shack that I accidentally destroyed.
So what you're saying is you wouldn't do very well if you were playing Survivor.
It was terrible. Do not put me in charge of constructing your shelter, because when an enemy appears and I try to hit them, I hit the shelter and destroy it. Yeah, that was embarrassing. We also spent another hour running around trying to find a turtle to kill. It didn't go well. We were hungry and thirsty and near death for most of the entire session. It was wonderful. We found a cave to explore. We thought we would just check out this little cave. This cave went through like an entire megaplex.
Wait. You were hungry, starving, near death, and it was wonderful.
Oh, it was fantastic. We had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. I'll tell you what, though, the first time night falls, because as a day-night cycle, the only light you have is a dinky little lighter. Trying to get that lighter to start as it goes out. this is a dark game. Most games, if it's nighttime, the moon's out, you can still see all your surroundings, even though it's nighttime. It's all lit up in that sort of moonlight. No, not in this game. We are running blindly in the rain, in the dark, with crazy people in our far off distance, just hearing them skitter around our edges. Whew. That was fun. That was a lot of fun, running blind in the dark with crazy people trying to eat me. Now, what I found very interesting, just a nice little design that they did in this game, is that when you first crash land on this island full of crazy hunger for human flesh people, is that...
They're called cannibals.
Just like any real tribe, I guess, that would be on that sort of island environment, they don't just charge in and attack you. They sort of will... You'll see one just emerging from the trees, just watching you. And when it notices that you've seen it and you start walking towards it, it'll scatter and run. And they're just sort of like, who is this? What is this big sound that just occurred because the plane crashed? And it's kind of creepier just knowing that, like, we're trying to collect our equipment and I have an axe and not much else and someone is watching us, dude. What do we do? Do we go up and attack it? Oh, he's gone. Where's he gone? I can hear him. He's running off. Okay, well... I guess we'll go the other way and we'll just see what we can find.
Be like, dude, can I borrow your phone? I need help getting off this island.
There was no phone. Let's make that completely clear. One of the highlights of our session is when we finally, after 90 minutes of being like Perry the Platypus and Dr. Doofenshmirtz when they get hit with a dehydrator and we're just there going... just completely parched, thirsty. Our thirst meter has been 0 for so long. You need fresh water to drink. We found a little pond, which was wonderful, and until my buddy the Falcon got a message saying he's being coated in blood and needs to clean it off. Otherwise, he risks infection in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so he found the closest body of water, which was our freshwater pond to drink out of. And he's just there bathing in it, and it was a wonderful experience. Just perfect. That's just what I want to drink out of.
Nothing like a little iron-tasting water.
No, thank you. So, in summary, it was a short session just recently. I went in almost completely blind into this game and had an absolute blast. I'm looking forward to another session with him very soon. And probably the most mind-blowing thing about this game, created by, what is it, End Night Studios or something? A development studio with 4 people.
Wow.
4 people made this game, and it is more... I mean, those sort of survival games are always a bit janky, glitches, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But for something that's been that good, that immersive sound design, you know, the lighting, like I said, all the little touches, 4 people.
Well, if you've got plenty of time, I think the biggest reason some studios have as many developers and engineers, etc., that they have is because of the time crunch, trying to spit as many games out as they can in a calendar year. So if you have as much time as you want to devote to a game that you want to launch whenever you want to launch, you have a bit more freedom with a smaller team to do that. So you hear of like that with music too, with some classic songs being made in people's garages. What was that song? Is it Gautier? Somebody I used to know that was made here in Australia, in Melbourne actually, in just a simple little home studio with like 2 people. So
Stinky little home studio with 2 people. Sounds like just living the dream. So yeah, if you are curious about The Forest, it has recently came out, I think last month, if you're listening to this in December, which I'm not sure you will be. So let's just say November 2018 came out on the PlayStation 4. So it's still relatively fresh. I decided to go give it a shot and wow.
enjoyed it?
Yeah, but I'll probably have nightmares of naked people clubbing me to death with stones.
Lovely.
So no different than any other week.
Share the love. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Gaming Lovers. 2018 has been a big year for us. A lot of amazing adventures, but also starting this podcast, which was something that we talked about for most of the start of the year, and then we slowly, instead of just saying things, started putting, our words into action. And started recording this podcast. So I thought, let's look back not just at the video games of this year, but quickly touch on how far we've come just in the last 6-7 months that the gaming lovers have been around. Can you believe that?
6-7 months.
Yeah.
67 months. It doesn't feel that long. And you said 2018 seemed it was like a big year, but I'm sure it was just 365 days as well. No, wait, was there an Olympics this year?
There was Winter Olympics.
Never mind.
There were Winter Olympics.
I can't even get my number jokes right.
Anyway, just to look back at the Gaming Lovers podcast for 2018, some stats to throw your way, Brendo.
I love stats.
Yep.
Statistics are my jam. Pass the jam, wham bam.
What do you think is our most downloaded episode to date as of recording this podcast?
Well, if people are anything like me, when I like to... All the podcasts that I've found, if I've listened to one episode, I've gone back to the start, just rolled through from episode 1. So that'd be my guess. Episode 1.
You are correct, sir. The first 3 are our most listened to, but number 1 stands out by quite a long shot, and we probably scared off the majority of listeners from there. But there are some key episodes that do stand out. Episode 3 is actually our second most listened to episode, which happens to be the episode about when games feel like work, and when we did our Overcooked challenge with Mel and Steve. So... those antics seem quite popular. I don't know if we need to revisit that in 2019 or not.
Maybe that a lot of people can relate to that. Games do indeed feel like work sometimes.
That they do. 46% of our listeners are Australian. 42% are American. We have listeners in the UK, Sweden, South Africa, Japan, Indonesia, Norway, Ireland, France, and Brazil.
Ireland. I love how you said that.
I can't help it. It's just how it comes out. But interestingly, in the last 3 months, those percentages shift.
Ooh.
Yeah, the majority of our listeners recently actually come from California in the States.
Well, there we go.
At 51%.
We've got a hot hand.
Yes.
The West Coast. West Coast. Oh, my geography is horrible.
I wouldn't have a prayer knowing the coasts.
There's a reason why it's called the Gaming Lovers Podcast, not the Geography Lovers Podcast.
32% Aussie in the last 3 months and 7% from the UK. So thank you guys from wherever you're listening in the world. We love you all, and we're very grateful that you take time to listen to our ramblings.
Those are fun stats.
They are fun. It's kind of cool to hear different people from all walks of life that love games wanting to share and listen in with our hobbies and interacting. So that's why I guess I wanted to also thank a lot of our fans, people that not just listen but like have made an effort to connect with us on social media, because we've had quite a few amazing fans on Facebook. So now I don't want it to become one of those podcasts that like every time we get a new fan we thank them on here, just in case. I mean, it would be amazing if it like exploded online, but it probably won't. But in case it does, I don't want it to have to be like this obligation thing where we're rattling off names for half an hour.
Well, we'll start off with our person who acted as our correspondent while we were away, otherwise occupied. Our boy Jamie Fox swooped in and was able to report for us about the big esports event that occurred here in Melbourne, Australia. Something that we wanted to try and make, but we couldn't. And he was happy to reach out and say, yo, I can help you out. So thank you very much, Mr. Jamie.
Yes, thank you so much, Jamie. All right, in no particular order, I'm just going to rattle off some of our fans on Facebook. Thank you to Ian, Evan, Brooke, Maddie, David, Daniel, Saskia, Andrew, Pete, Bethany, Bernie, James, Milan, Trevor, Sarah, Nikki, Mihoko, Joshua, Jude, Amber, Keegan, Natalie, Clive, Tammy, Kezia, Justin and Jonathan, Safun, Kayla, Jared, Cameron, Danielle, Juan, Chris, Clayton, Shannon, Jenny, Glenn, Selena, Sharon, Gabrielle, Tim, Julie, Raphael, Michael, Melissa, Kathy, Gigi, Francis, Kenneth, Beck, Priscilla, Rhiannon, Caitlin and John, thank you so much for being fans on Facebook. And if there are any new ones that have been added recently, thank you to you guys too. We love you all so much, and especially people that take time to interact with our posts and send us messages. We get a big goofy grin on our face when we get messages. We're like, hey, people like us.
It's not something that we mention every episode, but obviously a lot of podcasts do it every episode, multiple times an episode. But if you enjoy the Gaming Lovers podcast, you want us to succeed, you enjoy our antics, please rate, review, like, share, subscribe on every available platform that we're on. And we're on many platforms.
That we are.
So don't fall off, because who knows how long the fall is.
It's a huge help. It's not like we're making money off this by any stretch of the imagination. This is definitely a hobby, passion thing for us. But yeah, any love you can throw our way towards the Gaming Lovers, it would be so appreciated. And we've had a few on Twitter as well. Not as many on Twitter, I think. Twitter, we get a lot of people that like will follow you, and then if you don't follow back, or if you do follow back, then they unfollow you because they're turds.
That's all they wanted. They only wanted
want
my
the
follow.
I check. I'm like, if they've unfollowed me after like a day, I will unfollow them back. I'm like, you jerks.
Twist that knife.
So I've given it a new rule. Like, if they have been following us for a little while, then I might follow them back.
Yeah.
Like, I test them. I test the loyalty.
Well, I'm not a super active person on Twitter, on my personal one, at HyperBrendo. But I have had some great interactions with my man from Minnesota, Matt.
Minnesota. Sorry, I
Oh,
love
that sounded awfully offensive.
I didn't mean to.
You and your accents when you
it's
say
fun.
locations.
It's-
Ireland, Minnesota.
That's how I practice them.
Well, I'll excuse you because you are a voice actor, and that is an important aspect of it. But we had plenty of fun interactions over this past, how long did you say? 6-7 months since the podcast launched. He's found Sonic merchandise and tried to make me jealous with it, which the way to my heart is through the hedgehog-shaped growth on my torso.
Are they extra muscular growths?
Oh, like the Sonic legs in the new
In the
movie.
poster.
Get excited!
Yuck.
So thank you, Matt from Minnesota, and yeah, I'm looking forward to many more friends made, because I've already made some from this experiment, which has taken off and become quite enjoyable to do on a weekly basis.
Yep.
And thank you very much for all your love and support. Shall we move on to the smoochies?
The smoochies. I feel like we need a special sound effect for that.
Do you have your chapstick ready? Because
You're listening to the Gaming Lovers podcast. Want to join the conversation? Visit thegaminglovers.com. Record your comment or question by clicking on the button on the right-hand side, and you could be featured in the next podcast.
And now, time for the main event of the Gaming Lovers Smoochies. Here's your host, Brendo.
I'm the host? I thought we were hosts. Can we be co-hosts?
Sorry, I was just giving you music.
Oh, well, I feel special. Always wanted music. It's been a good year for gaming, as we've established.
Yes, many times.
Well, just like any good awards ceremony, we will have many categories that we've put a lot of energy and thought into these winners. Who deserves the prestigious smoochies from the Gaming Lovers? And why don't we start with something that we've always loved? We built our foundation of our podcast upon one of our very earliest episodes was Best Party Games. What party game do you think takes the party cake, the birthday cake at the party for 2018? What did you give the gong to?
The smoochie.
Mm.
It's a tough call for this category. There have been a lot of really great party games that have come out this year. I could say that for any category, though, really.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, my favourite party game of 2018 has been Super Mario Party.
And I agree completely with that
Yeah?
statement as well. That's what got my personal pick for best party game
It
as
gets the smoochie.
well. Have a smoochie with
Mwah.
Super Mario Party. Yeah, lots of fun mini games. It almost feels like a reboot of the Mario Party franchise after it became a little stagnant. But with new hardware becomes new controllers, new options for mini games and things like that, some revamped hits, some great stuff. And I recently also discovered the great fun of the cooperative river raft game as well. So if you want to work together and not against each other, hey, sometimes you can have cooperative parties too.
Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of fun, and it hits a lot of the nostalgic notes for me, but it's also new and improved. I think that they've juggled all of like the modern technology into the game really, really well, and it's just a joy to play. Every time we've played this game with friends and family, we've had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, ting, mwah,
Smoochie for you.
The next category is one that I think makes you still scrunch your nose even after the lengthy discussion we had about it.
Ooh.
Best mobile game. For 2018, Brendo, what was your best mobile game?
Best mobile game, still a fresh issue because we only just talked about it. And really, there's nothing else that I can give this to for my personal favourite mobile game of 2018, but Pokemon Go. We established a few episodes ago when we talked in length about these games. I didn't enjoy Pokemon Go when it first came out because it wasn't as good as it is now. They've made great improvements. I play it daily. I always try and catch Pokemon on my breaks. I have had less portable gaming time than ever before in the past 5 years or so. Because all of my work breaks now, I'm grabbing some food and walking around whatever suburb or dangerous district of Melbourne I'm in, simply to try and catch a elusive Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's a good or bad thing, it's addictive, it's fun, and I can't stop playing it.
Well, mine is also Pokemon themed. My smoochie goes to the game Pokemon Quest.
Pokemon Quest?
Yes. As discussed in the episode about mobile games as one of my top 5. And it came out this year. It has been a lot of fun. It feels kind of like a light edition of a Pokemon game where you're going and battling other Pokemon, but an element of randomness to it as well. So a bit of grinding work, very cute music, very small story, but still some in there. So it ticked a lot of boxes for me, but also I just really love the art style of it.
Yes.
Hence why I had to collect all of the Gashapon when we were in Japan when we saw those.
And we almost spent a lot more money on everything that was cubicle Pokemon.
Yes. They're really cute though. So that for me gets the smoochie.
Have a smoochie, Pokemon Quest, Pokemon Go. Look, Pokemon cleaned up.
Yep.
And we laughed when Nintendo said they were going to venture into the world of mobile gaming.
No, we didn't laugh. We quivered in fear knowing that they would take our money.
Perfect.
All right, next category, Brendo.
Well, I did say that Mario Party had a good co-op experience as one of its little subsectors, so why don't we jump back to co-op game or co-op experience? What was your cooperative highlight of 2018?
My favourite two-player co-op game for 2018, the smoochie goes to Overcooked 2. I love it so much. I'm sad that we haven't finished it yet, but we've been so distracted by other games. It's really no surprise. Trying to get a time when we're both free to sit down and play a game for any length of time is like near impossible at the moment. So we have much work to do because I have a feeling another challenge is on the horizon.
Oh, no.
Mel and Steve have been nagging us about when we're going to actually finish this game. Yes. But it has been a lot of fun. They have all the amazing things from the first game with even more difficulties. They added an extra level of difficulty where you could get 4 stars instead of 3. So Mel and Steve have been crushing that.
Crushed. Past tense.
Crushed. Oh, sorry, yes.
It has been
they've already
crushed.
done it. They've
Like
probably got all the world records
Cloves
at this
of
stage.
garlic.
But I love the charm and the humour and the puns. It is a really cute game and it really deserved the best family game of the year award at the Game Awards this year. So I was really thrilled for them that they won that too. So for me, like that was the best co-op game. We always play that co-op. I've never played that on my own. I know you can.
Who would want to?
I know you can, but it's like super hard. So
No, thank you. Now, thankfully, question mark, I cannot give Overcooked 2 my co-op game of the year. Now, I say thankfully because it's not because I don't enjoy Overcooked as much as you do,
You don't.
but there was a game
obvious.
that was better than anything that it could be.
Mm.
Now, I'll start off by explaining that because Overcooked, I'm not sure if the Overcooked challenge broke me. Like, broke me as a human being, broke me. Took years off my mental state. Or if Overcooked 2 just doesn't click, whether I find it too stressful and less enjoyable, or if it's just, I don't know. But Overcooked 2 hasn't clicked for me the same way as the first one did. And again, that may just be because of the 8 hours we spent playing it in the span of 28 hours. Trying to beat a stupid score that we couldn't do, and it just
Hey, we
demoralised
did it.
me.
What are you talking about? Couldn't do. We
Couldn't
did.
do for
We
the
did.
8 hours until we finally achieved it with
In the
seconds
last
to
like
spare.
10 minutes, we broke the record. But anyway, if you want the recap, episode 3, guys, of the Gaming Lovers podcast, continue.
I'll continue.
What's
so
better than
there was a
Overcooked
game
2
that
then?
I enjoyed more than that,
Yes.
and not just because it was bad, but Overcooked was bad. I don't enjoy
Don't you dare.
Overcooked.
I will fight you.
Now, I love any interactive narrative game. Give me quick time events, give me, cooperative experience. You increase that enjoyment tenfold, 100-fold potentially even. And that is why my co-op experience was my very first and only, now that I've mentioned it, run of A Way Out with my buddy, the Falcon. Now, it gave me flashbacks. One of my favourite cooperative memories of playing games with the Falcon. We loved anything co-op, which is why we played The Forest today. Wonderful co-op experience. Our favourite thing to do. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory blew our mind because you got to do cooperative stealth missions, split screen. Not only do you get to sneak around and take enemies out in different directions, but there were certain moments in that game where you could push a button to sort of crouch down and then the other player could run up and sort of boost up to get to a high ledge. Interactive, cooperative animations and things like that. I loved that. And very few games that I've played since then. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory came out over a decade ago. There's been no game that's really had that cooperative, all right, I'll lift you up and then you lift me up and then we'll get this thing and you hold this end. A Way Out ticked all those boxes. It was like a David Cage game, but two-playered, and that's all I ever wanted it to be. It exceeded my expectations. A Way Out, have one big, moist smoochie from me.
Had to say moist. I will admit it was a good one, but for me, as far as co-op goes, Overcooked 2 was just a more fun time, I think, personally. But anyways, let's move on to the next category. Best indie game for 2018. Your smoochie goes to?
Oh, the indie video game environment is just blossoming in these recent years, even to the point where indies are starting to become nominees for Game of the Year awards.
Yes.
Something I thought would not happen this regularly. Now, this was a hard one because I used to despise indie games. I thought, what are these scummy little short, low-budget games that are coming out left, right, and centre? Now I adore them. There's too many that I want to try that I haven't got around to yet. But the one I enjoyed the most this year, Cuphead.
Yeah.
Cuphead has a phenomenal art style. Looks like the oldest era of
Disney.
animation.
Yeah. Old
Fantastic.
school Mickey Steamboat style-esque.
Fantastic art style, sound design, music. It's like that traditional old school animation in a living video game. It's fantastic. It's
With the toughest gameplay ever.
tough as nails. Cooperative experience. Another one that myself and the Falcon played through together. We had a great time, frustrated time when you're just banging your head against the same boss for 90 minutes, just going, come on, we just need a perfect run. We can do this. I know we can. That is exactly the feeling that I want to share with all of you. So good on you, Studio MCHR, because you get the smoochie from myself for Best Indie Game.
Well, my best indie game for 2018 is A Way Out.
Oh, this is awkward.
it may not have been my favourite co-op, but it was my favourite indie game that I have played in 2018. And I think that's the little asterisk, is that it's a game that I have played this year, like a new game.
Yeah, it's always tricky with these end-of-year awards because you don't exclusively play games that come out that year or that were developed in that year, obviously. Cuphead, I'm pretty sure, came out at the tail end of last year, but I played it this year.
Yeah.
So it still gets my award. So if anyone complains about integrity
big
of
fat
the smoochie.
asterisks next to a lot of these games. I mean, for the most part, these are like freshies. They're games from this year. But that said, we haven't played everything. We haven't had time to play everything. So there are probably some things that you think deserve these awards more than what we've mentioned that we just haven't had the chance to experience. And we might agree with you if and when we ever get around to playing them. So please don't crucify us for not including your favourites.
Yeah, something that is obviously would have won best co-op game of the year, best everything would be Fallout 76, but we didn't play it. So, you can't blame us for not giving it its due.
Oh, man.
That would not get a smoochie.
I have never seen a game like that drop in price so rapidly. I mean, it made Mass Effect Andromeda look expensive.
Stay tuned for the other gaming awards from the gaming lovers.
The biggest flops?
The dumpies.
Actually, that would be really fun. That would probably be the episode that gets the most listens. People seem to they gravitate towards the negativity, don't they? Anyway, moving on to the next category. One of my favourites. Best performance of 2018. Brendo, who do you give the smoochie to?
This was difficult. I mean, a lot of my gaming attention this year, if you've listened to this podcast, you know that I fell in love with God of War. I fell in love with Spider-Man. Two big, left hook, right hook of this year for Sony in particular. There's your big two that are battling it out for top spot. And they are both led by incredible performances. Kratos, Peter Parker. Mm-hmm. Muzakashi desu. Difficult. In the end, I'm giving the Smoochie Award to Yuri Lowenthal for his portrayal of Spider-Man, Peter Parker. That carried such... He basically played multiple characters. He played Spider-Man, and then he played Peter Parker. And then he played Spider-Cop as well, which is an entirely different character. Probably the best character. Character of the year goes to Spider-Cop. But that whole game is filled to the brim with top-notch performances. The Dr. Octopus actually was giving me a run for its money and trying to decide which one gets the smooch.
And one of the best cameos I think Stan Lee has ever done when he does these Marvel cameos in the movies, I guess, are the ones he's most famous for. But I really loved and nearly started bawling my eyes out when he makes his little cameo in Marvel's Spider-Man, the video game. It was just such a good one. If you haven't played it or don't intend to play it, maybe just Google that scene because it's really sweet and worth checking out. In loving memory of Stan Lee. I miss him. Anyways, for me, my smoochie for the best performance in 2018, this was a tough one. I nearly went with Yuri because he's an amazing actor and I just love him as Yosuke in Persona as well. So for me, he will always be Yosuke. But for me, the smoochie for best performance of 2018 actually is going to Brian Dichart, who played Connor in Detroit Become Human.
Yep.
Because he just made that character feel so real to me.
Hang on a second. You're saying
I know,
a
an
human
android.
who voiced an android who made it sound so human.
I know, right? But
while sounding like an android. I'm so
it's one of
confused.
those. But that performance, he's so good. And obviously you can change whether he's kind of nice or if he's a bit more robotic and all those things. And so seeing the differences, and because I played it multiple times, seeing his performance change was great too. And that's one of the things I do love about those games is seeing how the actors make those different choices with those characters while still staying true to their character.
Yep.
Is fascinating for me as an actor.
As a performer.
Yes. And there's so many incredible performances in that video game. I love Mr. Krabs. You'll always be Mr. Krabs. Clancy Brown is so good in this as well. It's just perfection. Pretty much everyone in the cast is like top notch.
Yeah, there's been lots of good performances this year. I think another reason I had to give mine to Yuri is that he basically recorded all of his non-cutscene dialogue twice.
Yes.
Because there's different voice clips that play, whether you're just standing or walking around casually. He'll deliver one with less energy and just normal sort of cadence. And then there's an alternative track for every vocal clip where if you're web swinging or in combat, he'll sound more, engaged and
Yep.
I'm currently busy beating someone up, can't talk right now, like sort of he sounds more strained. And I love that. It's incredible work from whoever picked that choice in the game design, but a lot
of work for like coding and stuff too.
Another big shine on Yuri because he nails both of those.
Yes. He's a great actor. And it's like a close second for me, but my smoochie still goes towards Brian, who played Connor in Detroit Become Human. Just loved it. Loved it. Okay, next category, Brendo.
Oof. Best story, I suppose, is next.
Another of our favourites.
Favourites, but trying to actually make a decision.
Well, for me, it's kind of easy and it ties in with best performance. My smoochie goes to Detroit Become Human, my favourite story in a video game for 2018.
An interactive story, no less, too.
Yes, it made me bawl my eyes out. It made me laugh. It was thought-provoking. It had moments of genuine fear. It did the job better than any other David Cage game to date. It was just amazing, and the fact that I wanted to replay it, which I don't think I've ever had that so much with the others, like with Beyond Two Souls and definitely not with Heavy Rain. I did not want to go back and replay those because I was too scarred from a lot of those scenes and jump scares. Whereas this one,
it's all right. If
was
there's
a
any
bit more
gore,
fun.
the blood is just blue. Nothing to worry about.
You know what? It does help on some level. As horrible as that sounds.
Oh, because
it
it's
does help.
just an android. It's not a human getting impaled or killed.
Sometimes that's what you need to tell your brain, though. Like, it helps process, for me anyway. Like, that's just, anyway. I enjoyed that thoroughly. There are a lot of other games that had incredible stories that I wanted to list, and I could mention so many, but for me, that is where my smoochie goes. What about you?
Oh, talk about a difficult category.
I know, right?
It's so difficult because, like you said, Detroit Become Human, fantastic. I really do want to give Detroit Become Human a smoochie of some sort. It hasn't really fit into any of my categories, but the immersion that I felt, the stress that I felt playing that game, worse than Overcooked 2, I tell you.
That's because we were making you live stream it and we were watching and scrutinising your every choice.
But I think, I'm not sure if it was even that. I think above that, that game made choice so critical. Every decision I made in that game, I'm like, oh, I don't know.
It actually mattered.
I was like Cheedy from The Good Place. Every choice. I got stomach cramps.
I got a stomach ache.
Ultimately, I have to give best story to something you are yet to even experience yet. I'm going to give it to God of War. Because the storytelling you get, the backstory you pick up, you have a character with you who's basically fills you in on everything that happens in this world. Why this character is angry at this person. Why this is happening. All this sort of stuff. You get little bits and pieces, but it all fits together so well. The big revelations carry weight. The epic story moments hit their beats perfectly. The somber, tender moments, equally so. And that is just fantastic. I didn't know whether to give this to Detroit, Spider-Man, or God of War. And God of War just sneaks by from the grey hairs of Kratos' elderly beard. I didn't call him elderly. Please don't tell him I said elderly. I didn't mean that. I just meant he's sort of older than he was. I'm going to be decapitated any minute now.
Read it, boy. Before we get to our Smoochie Game of the Year award.
Oh, the gold smoochie.
The gold smoochie. A couple of like bonus categories. So the commitment issues smoochie goes to for like the game that we started and then stopped playing.
The best game that couldn't hold our attention.
or that life got in the way of, and the poor game is still, in stasis.
Mm-hmm.
What would that be for you, Brendo?
My commitment awards, it gets split two ways. I couldn't even commit to an answer as far as the commitment award goes. I have to say, one of my most appalling on-record things of saying that I will do something and then me not actually doing it would have to be Dark Souls 2.
Yes.
You wanted me to live stream the entire game. I think I did 2 sessions.
Yes.
And that was it. Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing. Again, life did get in the way. Other big games got in the way. And that's the sort of game I like to be in a key mindset to actually experience.
And also live stream.
Yeah.
You're always like, I want to play it, but I don't want to live stream
I'm
it.
not in the mood, I'm
I
tired.
don't want to do this. Sorry, I'm throwing you
So
under the
Dark
bus.
Souls 2 gets that. But the game that I stopped playing, and I have no idea why, I was really enjoying the visual novel on the PlayStation Vita earlier this year, Chaos Child. Now, it is a massive undertaking, a 60-hour visual novel. That'll strain anyone's attention span, but it was a great story. It was tense at times, more tense than Steins Gate. I bought it because I thought you might enjoy it because it was sort of made by the same people who made Steins Gate.
Yep.
It's a little darker than that. I don't know if you will enjoy it. I was enjoying it, and then I stopped. I don't know why.
I can handle dark visual novels because reading text, even if it's like horror genre, I can control where my mind goes. It's when the visuals come into play that it's harder for me to handle.
Okay, you're saying that, but this is a game that left me lying in bed with my eyes open going, oh my gosh, that was horrible. That's all I can think about now. So just, if you ever go to Chaos Child, just watch what you...
Okay, I've been warned.
You've been
I'm just
warned.
saying I have read horror novels and they don't impact me the same way as movies do or video games. But anyway.
I know what to get you for your birthday then.
My commitment issue smoochie goes to Persona Q. That poor game. Like, it technically didn't come out this year, but in anticipation for Persona Q2 coming out next year, when it comes out and is localized here in Australia next year, I want to be able to play because my favourite female protagonist from Persona 3 is going to be in it. She has been acknowledged, finally.
At long last.
And I did, in my defense, get further in Persona Q than I did the original time I started it. But then I stalled again because I said I was going to play it while we were in Japan and we were so, busy and jam-packed, having so much fun in Japan that any time I would have had to enjoy a video game, I was just too exhausted. I slept.
Yeah, when you get tired, you just crash. When I get tired, I play games, which is why I got through Majora's Mask start to finish on that holiday and was hoping you would do the same for Persona Q, but
No.
commitment issues. Sorry, Persona.
Poor Persona Q. And the other side category, ain't nobody got time for that. Smoochie. Games that we wanted to play but didn't get around to playing this year. So new games that came out this year that we wanted to play, didn't get to play. My one's a pretty big obvious one, and one that you might have noticed has been lacking in all our other Smoochie awards that was cleaning house at the Game Awards recently. Red Dead Redemption 2.
Well, when you have a release date this close to the end of the year,
Yes.
when did that come out? Late November?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's going to
right
happen.
before those awards.
That is going to happen when we don't have time. We've already got stuff we are playing. Christmas is coming. You don't know who's going to get you what, so you don't want to actually buy it for yourself. Yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2 is the obvious one. I also had Hitman 2, something that I really enjoyed the first season of the reboot, so it's not really Hitman 2. There's already been a Hitman 2. It's just confusing. But I look forward to actually experiencing that. And like I mentioned before, so many indies that have caught my eye. Return of the Obra Dinn, Celeste, The Messenger.
Tetris Effect.
Tetris Effect, even. That's made Game of the Year award top 10 lists. But also, something that is near and dear to my heart, Monster Boy in Cursed Kingdom Land, or whatever it is. I can't even remember what it's called, but it's another Wonder Boy style game made with the support and love of the original Wonder Boy designer creator. That's awesome. I'll play that in 2019. Just you watch.
And now, the category that everyone cares about.
Thank you for indulging our smoochies.
The biggest smoochie, the golden smoochie.
Well, is there a silver smoochie for the runner-up? the honourable mention for our Gaming Lovers Game of the Year, which will differ between the two of us because we played different games.
Yes.
And I don't think... Now, I won't give away too much for the next 30 seconds. Don't want to ruin
I'll
the
have
big
an
one.
honourable mention, but I don't think I would necessarily say that this means silver smoochie. I just wanted to mention it as a game that I enjoyed but did not finish.
I just put on my silver lip gloss, though.
Keep that to yourself. My honourable mention goes towards Marvel's Spider-Man. I enjoyed the exploration. I love the acting and I love the story, and I just didn't click with me with the combat and with many others as far as easy not really being all that easy. And wanting, certain aspects of the game to be a little more friendly, I guess.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yes. So, but that said, I can still appreciate the game for what it was and as far as I got, and I want to get back into it. I've deliberately left it where it is so I can pick it back up, and I'm kind of hoping, that there'll be a patch. I've still got my fingers crossed for that. So that's my honourable mention as far as our smoochies for 2018 go.
Yeah, my second place went to Spider-Man as well, so
There you
we've
go.
already explained what makes it so great with every other category that it was nominated for.
Yes.
Even a smoochie nomination, even saying that you potentially could have had a smoochie from the Gaming Lovers is well worth investing in your future.
Yes, I mean, just being nominated is such an honour. Sorry.
There you go with your offensive accents once again.
I'm not trying to be offensive. All right, mister, what game of the year gets your golden smoochie?
The gold smoochie has to go to Prey. What, didn't come out this year? I really loved Prey. The smoochie for best game I played in 2018 that did not come out in 2018 goes to Prey. But that aside, God of War just squeezed out the final hurdle. It overtook its opposition just at the very end. Cracking great game. I really hope that you actually play God of War next year. It's not as gory and grisly as we feared it would be. Thank goodness for that. Something that you were afraid of when it started looking cool, and you're like, I've seen you do some of the bosses in the other games, and it was terrible, and poking eyes out and twisting heads off.
Just imagine them with better graphics. No, thank you.
God of War is the definition of a video game that feels like a journey. You start with a goal in mind, and you embark on this incredible journey with great characters, great locations, great combat. Everything just feels right. Even the parts where nothing much is happening, there's conversations between characters as you're in a canoe going from point A to point B. It just feels organic. It keeps you interested and invested as you're going through a nothing area. And that is what helps chain it all together into a fantastic journey. Top-notch performances. I'm so impressionable. I want to play it again already. Look what I've done to myself. The gold smoochie from Brendo of the Gaming Lovers goes to God of War. This one's for you, Kratos.
Okay, my golden smoochie goes to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That's my big game of this year, and it has just been so satisfying to finally have another kind of RPG. I know, the Assassin's Creed saga hasn't really had those elements, and that's their first turn into it. And it's been really fun to see those worlds blend together, because you can see the old remnants of the Assassin's Creed lore and mechanics that they've brought into an RPG game.
Yep.
And I think they're just going to get better and better. But it was really gratifying to play as Cassandra, to just enjoy the story. Some of the side quests were super duper fun. And to know that depending on how you interacted with key people in the main plot line could change the end of the game. So there was some weight to how you interacted with people. So it was really cool, now that I've beaten the game, to know that I can do a little bit of digging and find out, I did get the good ending. Okay, cool. So I've really enjoyed that, and I will still be playing it a little bit because I want to go back in and I want to mop up get some more trophies and do a bit more here and there. It's just been so much fun to walk around ancient Greece. I love it.
That is a great thing about those Assassin's Creed games. Just you can be in Rome, you can be in the Americas during the Revolutionary War, and just things like that. You can just see the environments. They're cool.
Yeah.
Now, I had a sneaking suspicion this game was going to be your golden smoochie this year. At one key point when I walked in on you and you were enjoying the game, when the game was revealed and you saw that there was romance options and dialogue choices and things like that, and your ears perked up and you went, oh, that looks fun. Shame that I probably won't enjoy the combat so much and things like that. I'll just have to endure that old stealth. Oh, I don't like stealth. It's called Assassin's Creed. Stealth's going to be a factor. However,
So
when I
arduous
walked in
sometimes.
on you and you were maniacally laughing because you had eliminated every enemy at this outpost without being seen, except for one poor guy who was walking around, and you're there going, look at him, he's finding all the corpses of his friends and he can't do anything about it. Oh, he's found another one. There is no backup coming, my friend, and you're next. I was a little concerned for my wife's well-being and mental sanity, but I knew that you were enjoying the game, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. I don't know what kicks in at a certain point. I don't know. I honestly have no defense. But it is a lot of fun to just, that's the kind of thing, like, I would never be like that obviously in real life, but to be able to just be silly and slightly villainous, I guess, in a video game is kind of satisfying and cathartic to let that out, to sometimes blow off a bit of steam in a video game and go on a rampage, because I would never want to, nor, you know, be stupid enough to do that in real
I
life.
think the lady doth protest too much.
Look, just be thankful I don't have superpowers, okay?
Thank goodness for that.
So yes, I haven't played a lot of other of the big games. Like, I haven't played God of War, I haven't finished Spider-Man, I haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2, I haven't played Celeste. A lot of things that have been key on people's lists of best games for 2018. Unfortunately, I have not played. So I do want to get around to a lot of them, but purely by process of elimination, Assassin's Creed Odyssey was my top game for 2018. So as much as it's not me saying that the other ones suck, this has just been what I really enjoyed and also what I've played.
We all have different gaming experiences. We all have different games that we enjoy. And we all have different games that we happen to be fortunate enough to have in our houses.
For sure.
Share the love. Follow us on Twitter at Brendo and Jem. That's BRENDOJEM.
2018 has been a huge year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so looking forward to next year, though, because of Persona Q2.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully. But there are other big things coming out, even in January. Resident Evil 2 remakes coming out. Kingdom Hearts 3.
Hearts.
At long last, the great
Finally.
vaporware itself.
So excited for that. That is definitely a big thing to look forward to for next year.
I was considering doing a Kingdom Hearts themed episode in the next couple of weeks, just trying to tie together all the different spin-offs and story threads, but I got no freaking idea what happens in that game, so I've got no idea. Don't look at me for the explanation of how everything ties together.
But you can give us a detailed description of what sea salt ice cream tastes like.
Oh, sea salt ice cream is the bomb! So I'm going to have to find that here somewhere, because that was absolutely delicious. I had it in Japan.
Well, we found Coolish, so there is hope for you. But before we get to 2019 minded, I wanted to reflect briefly on some of the big events that happened in the gaming industry itself this past year, because it's been a big year, not just for like title releases, but as far as changes in the industry, studios closing down, things like that. So let's have a quick recap of the year that was 2018.
Too sweet.
One of the most notable events of 2018 in the gaming industry was when loot boxes came under heavy criticism, to the point where governments actually started stepping in and started looking at it and saying, this is gambling.
Thank goodness for that. Loot boxes, unless you're the sort of person who truly enjoys the pay-to-win scheme of game design, Loot boxes have been a curse for those who want a balanced multiplayer experience. You just want to unlock things.
Yeah.
You don't want to spend real money and not know what you're getting. That's not good. That is gambling, in my mind anyway. Just putting that out there.
It ruins the playing
apparently.
field for people, but also the fact that they've made so much money off of that scheme, basically. They are nowhere near motivated to stop doing it. They're trying to find other ways. So I'm hoping that the criticism and the backlash from it, but also that the government's looking at these things will hopefully curb that tide a little bit.
Yep.
Make it a bit more above board at the very least. We can be thankful for Fortnite
Oh, can we?
because of...
Can we?
Well, you can. Cross-platform gaming thanks to Fortnite.
That's true. And thank you very much for Nintendo and Microsoft for playing nice at the start. A less sincere thank you to Sony, who showed up to the party quite late.
But you had
We're
people
getting
playing
there.
on their mobile phones against people on Xboxes, on PCs, to the Switches, and then finally PlayStation 4 joined the party at the 11th hour.
As an older gamer, this blows my mind that we're experiencing this in my lifetime.
It's pretty cool though, and I hope to see more things like that. I think that makes it more accessible and it will help a lot of gaming developers because they'll be able to have more options for their game to be available and playable.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool. In sadder news, studios like Telltale, you've got Prima Games as well as Capcom Vancouver all closed in 2018.
Prima Games was great. I've explained before on this podcast, I used to like getting walkthrough guides, sometimes even just for the artworks. But the effort that went into those guides before the age of true online internet guides,
Yep.
they were invaluable. And the fact that that sort of era has gone is sort of sad. Telltale's is even sadder, though, because, man, I enjoyed their interactive narratives.
Yep.
And now...
There's a lot of questions as to what's going to happen to certain series. There was talk of another Wolf Among Us, and now that's obviously gone. And we're kind of hoping and praying that someone swoops in and gathers key people from that studio and rebuilds it, maybe under a different banner, but will bring them back and maybe start them anew, because I still believe that there's so much potential in their art style and the way they tell stories. I love them so much.
Or even another industry vacancy for some other studio to make games in that style and get enough notoriety that people say, yes, use our licenses to make games.
The International 2018 was held in Canada and was breaking records for the Dota 2 tournament, the largest prize pool in esports history.
And unfortunately, I didn't win. Because, boy, that would make a big difference.
It would, but you would have to play nothing but Dota 2, I think, to even come close to being on that level of competitiveness.
That's where I went wrong, because I've never played Dota 2. Oh, gosh.
Good hiccups. More sad news. In August at a Madden NFL tournament, a participant turned shooter killed 2 people and injured 10 others before taking their own life. It's an unfortunate trend that we've seen in the States.
And unfortunately, it turns a lot of the media eyes onto video gaming as being violent and causing violence, which unfortunately puts a bad rap on all of us.
Yes, it does. And it's so completely unfounded, which we tackled in an episode talking about myths and misconceptions. You can go back and listen to that, where we defend this hobby of ours and fight back against all the lies and wrong notions people have. Like, you know, I guess when it comes to any hobby that people don't share, they just make up their own mind about something and jump to conclusions, which I find so frustrating. But yeah. It's been a profitable year, though, for gaming. According to industry analysis firm Newzoo, the video game industry has been worth, in 2018...
$1 million. No more than that?
much more than that.
Okay.
$134.9 billion US.
134.
So in Australian dollars, that would be a lot more. So it's had nearly 11% growth in a year since 2017. That's impressive. So to break it down in categories, 40% of revenues was made from, can you guess?
EA loot boxes.
Close. Mobile gaming.
Microtransactions strike again.
But hey, they help keep developers fed and watered, people. So don't get too mad. Consoles taking in 28% of those revenues, and then PC games the remaining 25%.
Not
There
bad.
you go.
Not bad.
It always blows my mind reading how much the industry makes, and I'm like, how do people still mock this industry?
Oh, such silly video games. They'll never be successful.
You know, people don't mock the movie industry the way that they mock video games, and yet it makes less now. You know, sometimes it's kind of on equal footing, but really it doesn't come anywhere near this figure. And the movie industry is going down, whereas video games are going up. I mean, an 11% jump in a year is huge.
Yeah, and especially with stats like that. That's incredible.
Exactly. How do we get part of that pie?
I think we need to be successul and make games and have talent.
We
and
need to
skills.
make a mobile game, I think.
I've
That's
got
where
some
the money's
ideas.
at. I think that's what this is telling us. 2018, though, has been a huge year, and I'm really, really excited to see what 2019 holds for us. Not just the Gaming Lovers podcast, but the gaming industry as a whole, and yeah, excitement.
Excitement. Well, let's look forward to 2019. Let's do a slightly different version of future term gaming goals today, because we're going to be talking about what do you intend on playing that you may have missed out on this year.
Ooh. Well, 4 in Feb is fast approaching, and we will get into that in a later episode, I think. We will break that down and explain what that means. But I think some of these big games that we've mentioned that we want to play but we haven't played, like I haven't played God of War. There's Red Dead Redemption 2. Those are some of the big ones on my list. There's a few games I would like to finish that we've started, like Borderlands 2.
Oh, boy.
Which I think we've brought up sporadically, like, since this podcast started.
And I don't think we've even played it since this podcast started. So
It's been so long because we had to have, like, the two Xboxes connected by a cable. And since they've been at opposite ends of the house, we haven't even bothered reconnecting them in a really long time. There are quite a few visual novels, actually, that I have in my backlog that I actually haven't touched, which is surprising because I love flying through those and just collecting trophies. They're so easy to get trophies on.
it's those blasted mobile games that are stealing all your gaming time, lady. I know for a fact.
That and anime. So much anime this year, but I don't regret it at all. I regret nothing.
Now, I've got a strange gaming resolution for 2019, and this may sound incredibly strange for someone who has a video game related podcast, but my New Year's resolution as far as changing the way I experience games is to maybe play less games. Now, I don't mean that as far as putting in less hours into games. I want to put in more hours, but I'm considering trying to narrow the scope of my interests in gaming because there's so many games coming out and that are out, and I don't have time to play them all, but I feel like I want to and I need to, and I buy them and I don't play them, and I get sad when I'm like, oh, I haven't played this game, I can't go on that forum, I can't look at that article because I can't talk about it because I don't know what spoilers are in it. I haven't got around to it yet. I haven't even played this. It's come out 10 years ago.
Okay, Stresshead.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's always games that I want to play, but I don't know if I can. So maybe I just shouldn't play those games. I'll play Call of Duty and nothing else.
That won't last very long.
No.
I honestly, I think as far as like resolutions go, I might be the opposite to you. I want to try more and expand my wheelhouse because I think the podcast has definitely highlighted for me that I talk about usually the same games a lot. And, you know, look, I love those games and I will always love talking about those games, but I feel like I need to widen my own scope and experience things outside my wheelhouse a little bit. And if I don't like them, then I can talk about it on here and complain about how I don't like them.
Perfect.
But it'll
Cue
give
up
me-
Resident Evil 7 for 4 in Feb. Wonderful.
Did not mean horror games. I didn't mean things like that, but just trying. Maybe I might try an online multiplayer game. You know, it's been a long time since I've done anything like that. And maybe I'm ready to wade into the pool of crazy again. we'll see.
We will see.
Yeah. So that's my challenge for 2019.
Excellent. Look at us growing and expanding. And well, I say growing, but really mine was like regressing and shrinking. So I don't even know what to think of myself.
You can mature. Hey, when you
I'm
mature and you grow old, you shrink. It's true. Fact
We want
of
to be
life.
open-minded gamers here and try new things. So Fallout 76. No, even I can't debase myself to that extent. Well, it's been a good year.
Has.
Games have been played, credits rolled, and everyone unlocked achievements in their own little way.
Happy New Year, everybody.
We hope your 2018 has been fantastic and that your 2019 is even better.
Happy gaming in 2019. Bye, Anara.
Chowski, y'all!
Thanks for listening to the Gaming Lovers podcast. For more episodes or to watch some live stream gaming, visit thegaminglovers.com.